We've come now to the quiz portion of tonight's show. The game is simple. We're going to play two pieces of video for you, both from MSNBC over the weekend. You watch them and you tell us who's dumber. The first comes from preacher without a church, Al Sharpton. Sharpton once worked as James Brown's road manager, so he knew Aretha Franklin well. As part of his tribute to the deceased soul singer, he said this.
So in the words of my late friend Aretha Franklin, show some RESPICT. Did
you catch that? Watch the short version again. Pay attention to the spelling.
Show some RESPICT.
Al Sharpton doesn't have much of a formal education. He started preaching as part of a road show with Mahalia Jackson during elementary school. He never learned to spell even simple words. He frequently makes up verbs out of thin air. If you've watched his show, you know he doesn't read the teleprompter well and couldn't if you held him at gunpoint. Now, Michelle Goldberg of the New York Times, by contrast, is unwaveringly eloquent. She's got an advanced degree from one of our country's most prestigious universities. She's written a couple of books, one attacking Christianity, the other praising abortion, that lots of critics loved. She writes for the most famous newspaper in the world. If you were in journalism and you got 100 on every test they gave you, you'd be Michelle Goldberg. She's the best our system produces. Here's what she said on MSNBC.
This is the most vocal president, at least in real time, that we've had in recent memory, right? He is the leader of the free world.
Oh, no, he's not. He's not the leader of the free world, but sorry. Well, he's part of a bloc that includes Vladimir Putin, Duterte.
Well, he's not rounding people up and murdering them without any, due process.
He'd certainly like to.
Well, anyway. I don't think you can say that definitively.
So who's dumber? It's not really close, is it? And it's not the guy who can't spell respect. He's not stupid. That's why he's been able to game our system for so long. But the other one, Michelle Goldberg, isn't gaming our system. She is our system. That's why her comments and countless comments like hers are so fascinating. Our ruling class loses control in the presence of Trump. It becomes clinically hysterical. What a normal person might consider embarrassing or buffoonish, they find existentially threatening. They abandon reason and proportion and decency. They don't even make sense. What is that about? Well, the short answer is that Trump terrifies them. These are people whose main talents are glibness and obedience, and that's enough to succeed in the globalized economy. That's what the system requires, lemming-like conformity, and that's what they deliver. They're not very impressive. On some level, they know they're not very impressive, and it worries them. Instead of trying to become more impressive, more creative and useful, they maintain their rule by bullying, even as they place themselves outside the bounds of criticism. It's been a very good deal for them. And then 2 years ago, when seemingly out of nowhere, Donald Trump showed up, half unhinged, and started saying all sorts of forbidden things, some of which were demonstrably true. This threatened to expose their ill-gotten power and privilege, and that scared them. They're afraid because they know they're guilty. They've watched the country decline as they have ascended, just as the rest of us have watched. They know what they've done. They understand exactly how much they have to lose by changing the way things are, and that's why they're yelling so loudly. Ann Coulter just wrote a brand new book called Resistance is Futile, How the Trump-Hating Left Lost Its Collective Mind. It's out tomorrow. We're honored to be the first stop on her book tour. And it's great to see you. What did you learn spending all this time forensically looking at the anti-Trump left?
Well, I think your description just there describes the never-Trumpers beautifully. With the left, I think it's more that they really do hate deplorables. They hate the Walmart crowd, and that's what they see in Trump. They're able to attack the gun culture and Walmart and middle Americans by attacking Trump without getting called on it because, technically he's a billionaire who's president. But really, at the bottom of it, they just think he's icky. And so they go on and on about this existential crisis facing America and Russian collusion without allowing anyone else in their little closed set, so that even smart people, as you point out, they become crazier and crazier, and they are rewarded for being crazy, as John Brennan and Clapper and Comey were. I mean, at one point, It was the left who wanted to chop those three up and feed them to the dogs. And all they had to do was start sending unhinged tweets, as John Brennan has, and suddenly he's a hero. I go through in my book not only all of the lies Brennan has told and why he was hated, and for good reason, as head of the CIA and just constantly lying. Left really hated him. Then as soon as he starts sending those crazy tweets about Trump being, treasonous and history will judge you, I just have one sentence of the names he was called after that. One of the most honored men, MSNBC, deep credibility, CNN. Suddenly it's a Cinderella story. Isn't that happy? Isn't that great? They welcomed him back.
Can I ask you a question that I've been thinking about for the past year and a half, and I don't know the answer? So the group that the left hates most, the middle class, as you just correctly said, the group that Trump represents, is also the group doing the most poorly. The middle class is dying and shrinking. Its life expectancy has declined. Why don't they feel sorry for the middle class?
It is, their hatred of Trump has caused them to lose all reason. It seems to me it used to be, well, both political parties would claim to care about the working man, the middle-class family. Both political parties used to want to defend the border. Both political parties used to attack the concept of anchor babies and illegal aliens committing crimes and legal aliens committing crimes. But, you do kind of worry. Trump had this uncanny ability to raise important issues that Americans care about, but it's getting to the point. Now, my governor says America wasn't ever great. If that's what he's driving them to, part of it is, of course, that's what their base, or a large portion of their base, wants. But I really wish we could sit down, liberals, and ask them why. I'm not a waitress at Wendy's. I'm not a union bookkeeper, but I care about my fellow American. Why don't they?
Well, it's a great question. It's an obsession of this show, and I honestly don't know the answer. But I do agree with you that it does seem like Trump, among other things, has totally corroded their own standards. Like, they will say anything. You can make a case against Trump and tell the truth, but they don't.
Yes, if the resistance were smart, I think they would read my book. It gives them excellent advice, which is attack Trump on the stuff he's actually done. Don't keep, as my friend Joe DeVito says, it's a buffet. Don't keep bringing your own food to the buffet. There's plenty there to attack. You don't need to make things up, but they make things up, and the stories get crazier and crazier, and as luck would have it, I don't have a job, so I can spend months going through Nexus to see the complete insane contradictions of them saying the dossier is it's proved. We know it's true because it was used to get a FISA warrant. It was used to get a FISA warrant on Carter Page, and then 10 months later we find out that the dossier was Hillary Clinton-funded research, and suddenly, where did you get the idea that the dossier had anything to do with this investigation, with the warrant on Carter Page? And, I have the quotes side by side, 10 months apart.
Oh, I bet you do, because I read your column, and what people who know you on television may not know is that you write your own stuff, and you are a brilliant writer, and I mean that. I think even people who disagree with you would agree with that. So I hope this book sells a ton of copies. It's out tomorrow. Resistance is Futile, greatest title of a book this year. Thank you, Ann Coulter. Great to see you.
Thank you for having me on.
Oh, it's an honor. Mark Steyn rejoins us after the break to discuss something that nobody in America wants to talk about, the possibility of more Clintons running for high office. Stay tuned.